Hey friends, my name is Tanner Cartwright. I'm here with Jerry Doris. This is Snake on the Table. We're a couple of elders from Reformation Church, a few of the elders from Reformation Church in Shelbyville, Kentucky. And we started this podcast to talk about things that people don't want to talk about, things that are a little uncomfortable or not PC, as it were. So, brother, what's our snake for today?
Our snake is, are you a sexist? And
Yeah.
I think that's talking about you, brother, and not me. Although I have been accused of being a sexist and misogynistic and
Sure, yeah.
all those kind of things, but you kind of a little bit more than
I've had it a lot. Yeah. So the question is, am I a sexist? And I would answer maybe, depending on the definition of sexism.
Yeah.
So if you look at, so I just pulled up a first definition of sexism that popped up, and I pull it up, is this. Sexism is prejudice or discrimination based on sex or gender. It is often directed at women and girls, and it can be conscious and hostile or unconscious and manifest as bias. Sexism often is linked to gender roles and stereotypes. It may include the belief that one sex or gender is superior to another. It can also impose limits on what men and boys can and should do and what women and girls can and should do. Well, if that's sexism,
Yeah.
I'm a sexist.
Yeah.
And so I think that what we've got is they swap it on us. So they want to accuse us of sexism, and I meet this definition, but then they want to tie in the fact as if I hate women, as if I am, I want, men to dominate over women or whatever it is. They do the switcheroo.
Yeah. So tell me, wait a minute, in what ways do you feel like men are superior or better than...
So I would
women?
say that men are better than women at being men.
Amen.
I would say that women are better than men at being women.
Correct.
And so when we have men acting like women and women acting like men, I'm going to have what they call bias against that.
Yeah.
The scriptures are very clear that men are not to be effeminate.
Right.
Because they're acting like a woman when they're not a woman. And so they're not acting inside of the roles that God has given them. And so I would be called a sexist because I'm defining what men should do as men and what women should do as women.
Right.
And I'm defining that biblically and also what nature shows us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this word that we're looking at here, sexism, is a new word. It's not something that existed in the past, and so as our society has shifted upon us, this category of sexism has come up, and I think it's come up parallel with feminism and stuff, because now it gives clause or things to accuse men of being that will helps the feminist cause, to have an accusation to lay at the feet of men, and
First usage would have been 1960s.
Right.
So the second wave feminism, they're kind of piggybacking on, the civil rights movement's use of the word racism, which wasn't really a thing before the civil rights movement. And so then you have them jumping on the back of that and saying sexism and all of that kind of going together.
So I would say one of the marks that we have is we desire to go back. We've often think about going back in time, in terms of where society was, how we thought about things, how we pursued things. Obviously, the progressive, those that are more modern in their thinking, they're wanting to look forward, and in that forward look, you see just this rush towards androgyny, where men are looking more like women and women are looking more like men, and becoming neither. In terms of their presentation, their goals, the expectations of society upon them. Whereas we're looking backwards and as far back as we can go, which is to the scriptures concerning the roles of men and women, and allowing or calling for men to stay in that category of men and women to stay in that category of women, and to be exemplary and to recognize that these are complementary. And I like that word for this topic here. They work together. Not that we're complementarian. I think we were very much patriarchal in our understanding, because the nature of man is that he is to lead, he is to protect, he is to provide.
Yes.
And because of that places in the home life, there has to be a hierarchical structure that exists for the good of the home.
Yep.
I would argue too that's true of any organization. You have to have structure, but
that
doesn't mean
I'm a man
that
under authority.
Yeah, exactly. I'm under authority, and that doesn't mean that those that are under authority are lesser of value. That's absurd.
Yeah.
But that's what our society wants to say, and this is why you can have 17-year-old baristas having meltdowns because there's expectations being placed upon them in the workplace, and they feel like their bosses thinks they're better than them, and they put it in these categories.
Yeah.
No, there's a team, and you got to work.
Well, and the reality is their boss is better than them at being the boss.
Yes.
That's why they're the boss.
Yeah.
And so the reality is that we're made to do different things, and when we're in different positions, and we have different skill sets and different experiences and different. So that there's not inherently as a human, we all have equal value.
Yeah.
No one's arguing against that. But, my wife would not be a very good fence builder.
Right.
And I would not be a very good stay-at-home wife and mother.
Yeah.
And so this is where, when we work together as a team, and this is where the idea of that word complementarian comes from. And I get it. I get the usage of it and whatnot, but I would not in any way call myself a complementarian. And one of the reasons why is because I think those guys, the guys that define those words and were pushing that complementarianism, they stop at where the Bible's defining as your role instead of going back to nature.
Right.
And what we see Paul doing in contrast to that is when Paul is writing to about men and women and relations in the hierarchy in the home and the church and all these things, what does he always do? He harkens back to creation and nature.
Yeah.
He says in Corinthians 11, even nature tells us these things. So, we are not just saying, and we get our foundations from Scripture, but we also recognize that there is a natural way that the world is made. Mm-hmm. We naturally understand that, for example, when Peter says that the wife is the weaker vessel, that the woman is the weaker vessel, we don't have to have Peter saying that to know that.
Right.
He's stating truth, and we know it's truth because the Holy Spirit's stating it there in Peter. But we also just know that. Yeah. And anyone who would say, that they don't know that, it is just they are deceiving themselves or lying. Yeah. Because women are the weaker vessel. And it's in nature. It is what it is. And
I would say the complementarian says of the roles of men and women that it's effectively arbitrary. It was a choice that God has made, that someone had to lead. Therefore, man is going to be the leader. And so God has said it, and women have to come alongside that. But God just as easily could have said women would be the leader and women and men would be the followers or the helpmeet or something like that. And that denies nature. Men are specifically built to do certain tasks and to be a certain way. The way they think, the way their instincts and all those kind of things are all generated by God, and the same for a woman. And then you have the physical abilities that have been given to us. Men have been given stronger bodies to bear more load. And when we're talking about generality, there are massive women that are strong and that kind of stuff. That's not the argument. But let's go to the issue of women. Women have been given the ability to help their husband achieve the mission of multiplying. He can't do it by himself. He must have the wife that is able to produce children. And because she has a womb, she is uniquely made. This is the undeniable biological fact that all the gender confused men out there who want to be women can't get over. Yeah. They just don't have.
They don't have a womb, and frankly, even if they had a womb, a baby's head can't get through their pelvis. Yeah, so it doesn't work. It's just rather laughable. But I lost my train of thought. Where was I?
I'm going to suggest maybe we need to have a whiteboard in here. You can give us a whiteboard.
Draw a pelvis.
Yeah, just so we can visualize what you're talking about here, brother, because I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, so we recognize that God made men distinctly to lead. That's what you're saying, right? That God made men with the ability to lead. And so God made man to take dominion on this earth.
Yeah.
God made man, he put him in the garden, take dominion, work the garden. When he brings woman to man, the first thing is that she's his helper.
Yes.
He didn't give her a command to take dominion. Her command is to be his helper.
Yep.
And so we recognize just in the first few chapters of Genesis that woman is given to man as a helper. Man is not given to woman as a helper. My wife is my helper. I am not her helper. And so she comes along in my mission, in my vision. And frankly, we see this. It's natural, and women who will be honest will say this. Women want to be led. Women want a man that they're excited to follow.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of men they're attracted to. You know, all over the world, that the one thing that holds consistent is women want tall men. And it's, no, sorry to the short guys, but it's just a reality. You just got to work a little harder, be a little more, you got to have, a little more. But that's what they want. They want someone that can protect, provide, and lead.
And I'm going to argue, too, that instinctively, and we're talking about generalities, I know we live in a society that is warped by feminism.
Yeah.
We swim in feminism. It's in the air we breathe. It's in the water that we drink.
Drinking it, yep.
And so because of that, we have some concepts and thoughts that arise in our hearts instinctively. But in general, here, women, they love children.
Yeah.
They long for children. No young girl who is born and raising is going to shun wanting children from birth. That's a learned behavior.
Yeah.
It's an abnormal behavior.
Yes.
And so because they're geared this way, they nurture. They love to provide. They love to build things that are helping other people. They love to help around the house, those kind of things. And it's learned behavior that tells them to hate children, hate domestic duties, hate loving those kind of things.
It takes a lot of work to fight against that instinct in women.
Yes.
A lot of work. And in fact, there are huge movements of people. I don't know, I would call it a movement, but it's a travesty. But look up videos on TikTok or Instagram of women bawling their eyes out because all of a sudden they've realized they're in their mid to late 30s.
Yeah, it's tragic.
Nobody wants to marry them anymore because
tragic.
They're older. They can't have they're getting near the end of their childbearing years. They're realizing that feminism lied to them. They're never going to have a family. They've worked their tail off for their career just so they make some male CEO somewhere who doesn't care about them a bit rich. And now their shot's gone at having a family.
Yeah.
It was a lie. And so this is why, Jerry, people get a little upset because of how aggressive I am against feminism, and this is why I get labeled a sexist. But I am aggressive against it because I hate it, because I think it destroys women.
It does.
I think it harms women. I think it harms families. I think it destroys homes, and I want it ended, and I want it dead, and I hate it. And so that's why I fight so hard against it, and this is why I get called a sexist, on Twitter. And there was a young man just a couple days ago that called me a sexist. He said, "This is wrong and sexist," and because I had made the statement that submissive wives are happy wives. And, the fact that God made woman to follow, and he calls wives in the New Testament multiple times to submit to their own husbands. And I just, submissive wives are happy wives because they're being obedient to God. And so, this came from that whole pamphlet that it was going around Twitter. Some church had passed it out where they said, come to our church. We've got smiling wives and obedient children and strong handshakes, all things that we want.
Right.
Right? And everybody lost their mind, because apparently.
Over smiling wives.
Yeah, like we've got a gun to our wives and you better smile.
Yeah, it's
or
a
you're
fake
gonna
smile.
get it when you get home.
It's a fake smile.
Instead of recognizing that happy wives are smiling wives.
Yes.
And women that are being led by God-fearing husbands faithfully are happy wives. Yeah. And none of them are going to therapy. And
Well, we'll talk more about this topic. I think there's more topics that are blending in with each other.
Yeah.
So the what's on the table here is being called a sexist. And I think we're called sexist because we hearken back to what the Bible says about the roles of men and women, how they are made, what their purpose and mission in life is for, which are distinctly different from one another. And so the statement is men are better than women at being men, and women are better than men at being women, and we should push for that in our society. We should long for that again, and to embrace the roles that we have. And so let's go back. Where's this coming from? Who are the people that are accusing you? Is it always the you've called them recently the angry cow, feminist, purple hair, or is it the soy boy white knight? That
it's all of the above, but I also think that there's another category that are not, because those are both bad categories, obviously, the way we're phrasing it. You got soy boy white knights and angry cow feminist. Those are derogatory, obviously, and on purpose, but you've got another category of people that, like you said, we have just grown up in feminism and we just swam in it, and we cringe when we hear things, even from Scripture. Yes. People have done this quite a bit on Twitter, I think, where they'll just post a verse but not say that it's a verse.
Right.
They just post it.
People lose their mind.
If you post, Peter says that wives, that Sarah called Abram Lord.
Yeah.
And he then goes on to say, you do well if you imitate her.
Right.
Well, that makes us all just like, wives are supposed to call their husbands Lord.
Yes.
And so that makes us all uncomfortable because we have grown up in feminism. And so I think we have a category of people that would call certain things that we would say sexist because they're still a little caught up in it. They're still in it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about good brothers and sisters.
Their inner feminist comes out.
Yeah,
I have an inner feminist. You have an inner feminist.
I have an inner feminist, and I try to crucify it every day. But we absolutely do, and we have to recognize that in humility and pray that Christ will deliver us from that.
Didn't Paul Washer famously say, "Men, if you get in touch with your feminine side, crucify it"?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. My feminine side is at home right with my kids.
It's my wife.
But this is, for example, there's a good friend of mine that his fiance at the time, now they're married, but his fiance had thought that I was a sexist. And she's communicated that to you now in a pastoral visit, that when she first heard of me and kind of was watching me, she thought I was a sexist. And then I invited them into our home and we had them over, and she all of a sudden realizes, wait a minute, this guy adores his wife, adores his children, has a absolutely happy home. Everyone's happy and joyful and cheerful, and that I think she realized all of a sudden, wait a minute, something's not adding up here.
So the expectation was that, I'm going to go into this, he's going to be angry and domineering and telling his wife, do this for me, because he is better. He's the king of his home. Now,
my dirty boots kicked up on the table telling her to bring me my beer or whatever, you know. It's like
do you, I won't ask personally, but we're aware of men that are like that. I think in the patriarchal movement, there are some just people that they need to be slapped.
Just like in anything, there is overcorrection.
There's extremes in that. Hyper-patriarchy, we would call it.
Hyper-patriarchalism, it's where guys, you see it show up in things like guys don't want their wives to be taught by anybody other than themselves.
Yeah.
Or it shows up, frankly, and this is a different conversation, but shows up in men that will give communion to their families. Yeah. And these kind of things, they take on things to themselves.
You
that
mean
God hasn't,
inside the home, thinking of themselves as
in the home church? They're the pastor.
Because I don't think you're trying to make a statement about like paedo communion with the CRE.
No.
You're talking about home.
I'm talking about men that aren't pastors taking on the authority to give the Lord's Supper, which is distinctly for elders of the church.
Yeah, that's a confusion of spheres.
Yes,
of
and to be done in the gathered assembly, the ecclesia.
Yeah,
and so
there's another. Let's write that down. There's another whole topic to talk about.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, but that's what you'll see those kind of things in the hyper-patriarchy movement, and we have it because people are reacting to feminism, but they're not reacting in a controlled way.
Yeah,
they're not responding; they are literally reacting. Yeah. And that's not good. We don't ever want to be those who are reacting.
So I've used this phrase with some other friends. Just whenever we can talk, get on the phone, spend some time warmly together. It's putting a warm smile to the hard tweet.
Sure.
And so you come across, and I know I come across in a hard way. But when we spend time with people, they recognize, no, that's not. I'm filtering what they're saying through perception, definitions that I have taken in and understood. I understand him to be a sexist, therefore everything he says looks hard and harsh to me. But then when I talk to him, wait a minute, he's warm, he's not that. So I look at those tweets differently now. I don't think of him that way. So it's important that we point out that the person that you just mentioned, that's a person that's in our church now.
Yeah.
They're on their path to membership.
They weren't then and they are now.
They are now.
Yeah.
And then I've seen this with just different people that have been part of our church that their initial take is halting, and then as the decoupling from feminism happens over the course of time, you see them begin to see things differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's encouraging.
Sure. The weakness of social media is you can't see facial expression.
Yeah.
You can't see these things, and when you talk to me or you and realize, oh, these guys are joyful and cheerful and glad to have a in-depth conversation and willing to listen and all those kinds of things. It's like it destroys the caricature. Yeah,
and many people would much rather believe the caricature than to actually investigate and to get to know somebody. This isn't necessarily meant to be a defense of tweets or anything that we do. It's just more this issue of sexism. You seem to be okay being called a sexist. I think I'm okay being called a sexist. I'm okay being called names by people because I know what reality is. I know what's true. How do you deal with being called names?
Yeah, I've been called everything in the book. You name it: misogynist, sexist, racist, white supremacist, white Christian nationalist, all this stuff. And me 10 years ago would have just jumped on to prove and show that I'm not. I've got black friends, and I love women and all this stuff, and it's like those kind of people that will make those accusations don't care what you say. They don't care.
Yeah.
And so what the conclusion I came to a long time ago is that I just embrace it. If someone's like, you're a sexist, I'm like, okay, whatever.
Retweet.
Sure. Yeah, so like that guy, he said this is wrong and sexist. And so I just quote tweeted him and said, what is sexism and why is it wrong? And he's got nothing. He doesn't know.
Yeah.
He's just parroting the line, And so if someone calls me something, I will typically just repost it or, quote tweet it or something because I just don't care anymore. And I just, and what I've found is that completely takes the air out of the sails. Mm-hmm. Okay, sure. By your definition, I probably am. So whatever is what it is. It doesn't affect me. And so we've got to stop being scared of being called these things. It's like, I don't want someone to actually think I'm a sexist. And it's like, if you're going to speak biblical truth, they're going to.
Yeah.
So just embrace it and roll on.
I don't desire or have aspirations to change the world. I want to see the world reverse its course. And I think in a large part here, the snake is eating its own tail and they're devouring each other. Feminism has led to just utter nonsense.
Feminists led to men beating up women in women's boxings at the Olympics.
Yeah, unbelievable. So
that's the product
I
of
feel
feminism.
like it itself is disintegrating, self-destructing, those kind of things.
Yep.
But my goal, my hope is to affect my congregation.
Yes.
And I want to see the ladies in our church saved from feminism.
Yep.
I want to see the families of our church to extract it so that men are leading well and women are enjoying being a helpmate. I just want to spend a minute here just talking about our wives particularly. And I know that my wife just enjoys my leadership and submitting to me. And it's not because I'm domineering. It's because she respects me and I provide for her a secure, warm environment. And then she just thrives in here. And she enjoys it. I know that's your experience as well.
Yeah, I would actually, my wife would actually say that our hardest struggles within marriage have been the times that I'm failing to lead.
Yes.
That's the issue. It's not that I'm leading so much that it's hard on her.
Yeah.
It's when I'm failing to lead. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I make very few like big decisions without my wife. You know, on day to day, I'm making decisions, whatnot. And my wife calls me with stuff and we work stuff out. But I am rarely making any big decisions without my wife's counsel.
Yeah.
I can't even think of an example.
Yeah.
We're talking through these things and coming to the same conclusion. And it's the rare occasion, incredibly rare, that we're going to disagree and I'm going to have to say, okay, we disagree. I love you. This is what we're doing.
But this is what we need to do as a
This
family.
is what we need to do as a family.
Yeah.
And there have been times that has happened. And in every case, my wife has submitted to me, and it's turned out to be the best for our family.
Yeah.
And so, at the end of the day, we're both making the decision. She's agreed to follow me, and the responsibility rests on me.
Yeah.
And she doesn't want that.
Yeah.
My wife does not want the weight of, if this turns out badly, she doesn't want that weight.
Right.
She loves putting that on me.
It's you.
She's kind of started embracing one of my mom's tactics, which was if she doesn't want to do something, she'll just call me and hint that she doesn't want to do it, and I'll just say, yeah, don't do that. And then she can say, Tanner said he don't want me to do that.
Oh, my wife and I do that all the time. There's something that comes up, and she needs me to be the heavy hand.
It's like, Tanner just doesn't want me to do that.
And the thing about that, the women that may, or whoever it is that's trying to impose something on them, they think, oh, he's such a jerk. Your husband is so... No, I'm doing my role of protecting my wife. Okay, this is totally into a different topic, let's end this. But we definitely need to be talking about what leadership looks like, submission looks like, because I think that as men we are prone to abdicate in 100%. Leadership, and it causes our wives to want. They're struggling to get things done and to achieve a mission that they instinctively know that they must do. And when we don't give leadership, they get frustrated with us, and it just causes this chaos in the family. So we serve our wives best by being good leaders over them. We'll talk about servant leadership sometime, because that's just backwards.
That's a good one.
Oh, it's
servant leadership.
Nonsense.
But just think about Adam and Eve. Adam, instead of leading his wife, was led by his wife. The scriptures say he hearkened to the voice of his wife.
Chief confidant.
All of mankind fell.
All right. Snake on the table at gmail.com. If you've got a question for us and you want us to try to tackle, we would love to look at it and evaluate.
Or reach out for more clarification on anything.
Yeah, of course. I'm assuming that in the comment sections or whatever, people are going to have some comments. But thanks for tuning in to this episode here of Snake on the Table.